every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked.
A quick introduction for describing my side. My face is forgettable, a regular guy. Now I can be anyone, anywhere I aim. I just need the mindset, a story and a name. Just started working here, haven't got my badge yet. My hard hat and clipboard's the same as all access. Data center rooftop, finished with my case soon. Taking people's lunches from the bags up in the break room. Talking through my story, recited it with confidence. Make you feel at ease, disregard your common sense. Now I'm in, hope you're ready for the consequence. Cause I'm picking locks, slipping off with all your documents. Play the subconsciousness.
Welcome to the Social Dash.
Started.
Oh, guys, just so you know, I've been trying to start this for like 10 minutes and they won't let me. Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 27.
Number 27.
Hey, Dave, that was actually respectable this time.
All right, thanks.
Maybe
thanks.
DerbyCon did you some good.
Hey, DerbyCon did me a lot of good.
I heard a lot of great things about DerbyCon, as a matter of fact, that the Twitter has been blowing up all about Derby.
It has been. Someone actually did some statistics on it.
Oh, really?
Around, like how many tweets there were per DEF CON, per ShmooCon, and everything else. And we were actually up at the par with a 15,000 person conference, which is kind of neat.
That's kind of cool. Wow. And I think the biggest part of Derby
was that you missed it?
Well, I didn't want to miss it, but I had to make a living. That whole thing.
It's kind of a lame excuse.
Well, I guess it is. Maybe if you were paying for me, I would have went. But
I mean, now that you're this high roller and you need to be paid for all your speaking engagements.
Yeah, I'm a high roller. But anyhow, I was going to give you some praise until you started that. But I heard that you guys raised more money for HFC than all the other conferences.
That's right. I mean, in fact, I think it was over double of what I don't know the exact number of what DEF CON makes, but DEF CON, a 15,000 person conference, I think generated like $5,000 or $6,000, and we ended up raising over $13,000 for just a 1,000 person conference. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I saw you guys did something pretty unique. Like you put up a black badge as part of the auction.
Yeah, and for first year conference, I mean, people don't, I guess, necessarily know what that really means, but I mean, it sold for $1,337.
Great price.
I know.
That's an awesome price.
Awesome.
But now that person will have free access to DerbyCon for basically the rest of their existence.
Yep, that's right.
So,
since it's there.
So I guess what he doesn't know is that Derby was a one-time thing, huh?
Yeah, we're done now. We're just going to give up.
So it's over. So he did all that for nothing. Just kidding, whoever won that. Just kidding.
No, yeah. We're definitely going to go for next year. We got some major things planned, and hopefully you come through on your deal.
Yeah, I'm going to come through on that, and I actually promise to be there this time, barring anything, family related. But awesome news. I saw some of the opening videos online, as well as some of the speeches that have been going on. I was watching yours about pen testing with Kevin Mitnick.
Yeah, did you like it?
Yeah, I did actually. I was kind of laughing at the beginning when Kevin played the joke, and everyone saying that you were kind of teaching him all about SE. Yeah, it was kind of good. It was good banter back and forth. I didn't know how you guys would actually work up on the stage together, but it worked out. It worked out really nice. You guys did a good job.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And I like the fact that you guys kind of switched it up, and you went to white shirts instead of black, huh?
Yeah, although I didn't realize that white shirts actually stain very easily, especially while you're drinking very heavily. So a lot of people ruin their shirts, but it was actually very good for us because we got more profitable. People ruin their white shirts and go buy another white shirt. So I think
that's a nice scam.
Yeah, nice scam. So maybe next year you should have white shirts that you sell, and then the next day sell black shirts. So that way they can have like multicolor. Well,
we'll have to contemplate that for next year.
Or just make puke colored shirts.
Well, I'm thinking about doing gray next year.
Gray,
so it's not black, but it'll be gray.
Yeah, so gray hats. Yeah, okay, I get that. So that's pretty awesome. Let's see what else we got going on this month, guys. Man, it seems like it's been longer than a month, but it's not. I don't know why it seems longer than a month.
Yeah, it seems like it was a long time since we did last podcast. Well, I think it's probably just been a while since you got your stuff together. So, I mean, you've been so busy doing your high roller stuff that, the podcast has been kind of taking a hit.
Yeah, high roller stuff. That's me. I actually went out and bought a Bentley and then just crashed it for fun.
Well, yeah. I
You
mean,
know.
you have to when you're making as much dough as you are on that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I don't even know what to do with it. I needed a tax write-off. The accountant said, buy something and destroy it. So I bought a Bentley and just wrecked it. Yeah. Because that's how I roll, I'm that.
Yeah,
I'm just
totally.
that rich. Yeah.
Totally.
Totally. No, sorry. Not the truth.
So the guy that actually bought the black badge is Leonard Isham.
Uh-huh.
I think he's also registered for one of your classes.
Yeah, he is actually. That's great that you just mentioned. Yeah, so we just launched the Social Engineering for Pen Penetration Testers course. It's on the social-engineer.com site.
Did I just ruin something?
No, you didn't ruin it at all. It was a great lead-in. It was almost like we planned it and we didn't.
Oh,
so that
well,
was
we don't plan any of this stuff.
I know. So that was kind of cool that you actually
Awesome.
did that because I was like going to try to figure to lead into that, but I didn't want to do it in a way that was like, "Hey, look at me." So you did it for me. That was awesome. But yeah, so we just launched the announcement on that course. It's live on the social-engineer.com site. Got the registration page up. People have been registering for it.
Do you guys cover how to get free chicks?
Yeah, that's actually a whole module at the end. So you got to come and stay for all 5 days, and then at the end of the 5th day, we cover how to get free chicks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you got to sign up and come to the course. Our first one's in Seattle. Already got the location set up. Really nice place over in Seattle. Decided to try something on the West Coast. All the training we've done with OffSec and stuff, always done here on the East Coast and around the globe. So I figured let's try something new. Let's go over to the West Coast, see what it's like over there. And the response has been quite amazing. I got to cap the class off at around 20, 25 people.
Now, just to be clear, you said you got to cap you're going to limit how many people. You're not going to cap the class.
You mean like cap them, like put a cap in them?
Yeah. I mean, the way you said it, it sounded
Well, I might put a cap in them depending if they irritate me or not. I'm just kidding.
Well, is this an East Coast versus West Coast thing you're talking about
It
now?
is. Yeah. If we're out on the West Coast, I'm gonna do it all gang style and probably put a cap in them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for verifying that, Dave.
Okay. I just need to chip in there.
Jim. Can't tell the difference between you two anymore. Because you guys tease me exactly the same. Jim used to be on my side, but now he's like on Dave's side. So,
No, I think he just found out that it's more fun to heckle you than it is me.
Well, you got to go for the person that gets upset about it.
And I'm upset. I'm laughing. I laugh at your face.
Yeah, but you're crying on the inside.
Listen, I'm such a high roller now. I don't even care about your making fun of me. I'm just going to buy your family and make them my own family. Just take that.
How much for your children? Your wife, your daughters.
Great. So we have just recently lost our PG rating for the rest of our life.
We still haven't sworn any at all.
No,
We're
not
good.
yet. Not
You can
yet.
talk about buying families and making them yours. That's fine.
Just buying families. That's safe.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. So the course has got a lot of good signups. I'm also doing one in the UK in April. So I got one in March in Seattle, and then one in the UK in April of 2012. And I don't know, maybe I should do the drum roll. We already got signed to give the course at Black Hat. So I've already been talking to the Black Hat folks about that too. So of course is getting
That is so news. That definitely deserves some congratulations, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Congrats, man.
Oh yeah, thanks. Just the kind of congrats that I like, a good Price is Right theme, just what we need. Yeah, thanks.
No worries.
What else we got going on? We hired two interns. I was kind of amazed at this. We had this idea. We had all the stuff going on that we needed to kind of have help with, and we're all busy. So I said, let's put the message out. Jim and I were thinking, put the message out for interns. And I just tweeted, SE org looking for an intern, no pay, some small benefits, a lot of torture, hard work. If you're interested, email me. We got like 100 and something emails. I was really shocked at how many emails that we got. And then we laid out what we were looking for and what the skill set we needed and what the reward was. And that whittled it down to about 25, 26 folks that stuck with it. And then after the 26, we said we need you to do a writing assignment because the major part of the internship is doing writing for us. So we need help with that. So we want to make sure you can write, reasonably well. And that whittled it down to about, what was it at the end, Jim?
I'd be out.
Yeah. A lot
3 or 4?
Well, we had like 8 do writing, and then we took down to like 3 or 4 that were really exceptional. and then we brought the last final two, did an interview with them, and then chose the one person. But I was really shocked at the quality of the people that were. Not that I was shocked, but I mean it was just amazing the quality of the people that were willing to be interns for us. A lot of people in the IT industry, of course, those who really want to get into SE and learn a lot about it. So we got some cool stuff. Eric, or Herbal is his online name. He's on the channel now. He's the guy who we took for our writing internship, and then we just Dan has been like a big deal with us for SE Org since the beginning. I think the last 3 years he's been part of the team, been our slave, coming to DEF CON, working. So we just made him an official team member and put him there. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. What are you saying, Jim?
That's awesome.
Jim's making fun of his nickname, Herbal.
Dan's a good dude.
Dan is a great dude, and the thing about Dan is he like works his butt off no matter what you tell him to do. And then afterwards you'll find out something like, oh, you haven't slept in 3 days. Sorry it took me so long to get this thing to you. And I was like yelling at him, like, where is it, you loser? And he's like, gets it to me and then tells me like he, was in a car accident and had his arm severed, but he still decided to do it. So that, he's a real loyal guy, real good worker. So
Sure.
Both Eric and Dan, we welcome them on the team. Come on the channel, say hi, bug them a little bit, but they'll be working with us over the next year and hopefully longer as we grow. So besides that, we do want to say the offset classes, we are filling up on the AW class in Maryland, USA in October 24th. There's a AWE class that's just about full. So we got some more registration slots, a few more available if anyone's interested last minute. You got to get a hold of us quick though, because we're about to close the reg on that. We also have an AW class in Portugal that has a few slots open. So if you're going to be over in that area, or if you're there now and you're listening and you're interested in that class, contact us about that too. And then of course all the online training and things that will be going on with OffSec there. Excellent. Okay, so we talked about OffSec courses, SE courses, DerbyCon. Oh yeah, baby.
That's a DerbyCon intro music.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm surprised that next year if you have like 2 people show up, you should get that guy to come and play for DerbyCon.
I would consider that if Bruce Hornsby was willing to present. I mean, there's a piano there too. Seriously, I told you guys my dream, right? I just want to walk into a bar that has a piano and just play that song, knowing nothing about pianos, and then just like leave like I'm a badass.
That'd be really hard for you to do, since you don't know how to play the piano.
It doesn't matter. I can do muscle memory to figure out how to play that song.
Muscle memory.
I just want to go to like a teacher and be like, listen, I don't know anything about pianos. They suck. But I just want to learn how to do this.
Oh, boy. Anyhow, back to our show at hand. We have a pretty interesting guest for today planned. Her name is Jasmine St. John. And I'm going to get her on now, and then we'll talk about some of her bio. But Jasmine is a therapist, a licensed therapist in Wisconsin. And she uses NLP in her practice. And I thought, we've had some pretty interesting debates on the podcast and in person and at the cons about NLP and its effectiveness, its legitimacy. So who better than to get on a licensed therapist that actually uses NLP in her practice with her patients and see how she uses that. So let's see if I can get Jasmine into the podcast now, and then we'll start the conversation.
And just so we're clear, social engineering does not require deception. Just want to throw that out there again.
I heard that Jameson put a smackdown on you about that.
Listen, you know what I mean.
Jameson, did you go to his speech? Did you go to Jameson's speech, or were you busy with other stuff?
Jameson.
No, I don't know if you saw the whole presentation, Chris, but the whole beginning of it started off with that, and then at the end he said, "I'm just playing with you guys," and then it showed her all the reasons why. So you're wrong again.
I'm not. We had this conversation, and social engineering does involve deception.
Then you're saying Johnny Long's wrong. You're saying Kevin's wrong. You're saying I'm wrong. I mean, me being wrong is not possible. First of all,
well, not on this.
Right.
Hey, Jasmine.
Hi.
We were just debating about the use of deception in social engineering. And, well, let me introduce you, and then I'll tell you about our debate, and we'll get your take on it without influencing you either way.
Okay.
Okay, so anyhow, like we were saying,
point out that
no, hey, don't influence her either way. We're gonna give her the whole thing, and then we'll let her decide.
All right, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I'm right though. That's all I said.
Oh man. Anyhow, our guest today, like I was just mentioning, Jasmine St. John. She's a licensed systems therapist, which we'll find out exactly what that means. Dealing a lot with marriage and family therapy, but the interesting part about Jasmine's practice, the reason what we wanted to have her on, is that she uses NLP as part of her therapeutic practices with her patients. So we thought it would be interesting to have a discussion, since we always have this debate about NLP on the podcast and in person, with someone who uses it each and every day and see how it applies. And Jasmine's also got some interesting thoughts on women and social engineering and things like that we'll be able to get into. Anyhow, welcome to the show, Jasmine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. From your voice, you sound like you're 2 feet tall. You just sound so small.
I am actually 5 feet tall.
Oh, so you are very small. There you are. And with us is Dave, who you heard, and Jim.
Hi there.
Hey.
Hi.
So before we get into the whole NLP thing, I'm going to give you a totally non-biased storyline here. One person feels that social engineering always involves the use of deception to some point.
And that's correct, I believe, by the way.
Hey, I said unbiased. You suck so bad, Dave. It's ridiculous. I got to mute you. I'm going to mute you. That's what I'm going to do. and there's another person who happens to be completely wrong all the time, feels that social engineering does not involve deception all the time. What is your take on this?
Wait, Chris, before she says
I wanna
it, you
hear-
want no? I'm not going to ruin anything. I promise.
You ruined it already.
I promise. I'm done. We should give her a couple examples of what was posed for deception and not deception.
Well, let's
by
first hear
John.
her. Let's first hear her take on it, and then we'll give her the arguments behind each.
Sounds good.
I feel like most situations do deserve more context, and that intent does matter in situations. So there are many times when you can look at going forth, let's say in social engineering or meeting people at a party or even in therapy, where if your intent is overall to be positive, gather information, and use that to the best of your ability to help other people, you could say that is deception. However, intent does play a part. Also, you can do things by the textbook and act according to whatever value set that you hold or the business you work for hold, and absolutely, you can be a total jerk about it. I think context matters.
Okay, you're a real therapist. That's all there is to it.
Thank you.
That was like such a therapist answer. If you feel that it involves deception, then you are correct. And if you don't feel that it involves deception, then you are correct. Dang it.
So basically, I'm right again.
No. Well, here's so you see, Jasmine's mic is so quiet. I don't think you heard her properly. And I don't think you heard her 100% properly. What she said was, Chris is correct, Dave is wrong all the time, and you should just live and accept that.
I don't think that's the case. I think you're just making things up again.
Well,
it's kind of like that. Well, Chris, you remember that one time I went to this vacation and I went into this bar and it had all this like liquor everywhere, and what was that story again? That's how I met my wife.
Yeah, nice. You see, not working. You failed. Epic fail. You tried. Anyhow, let's get on to the topic at hand. We'll debate this at another time. Yeah, I think that it's been debated with much urgency and consistency, and we'll probably never come eye to eye on this.
Well, Chris,
when I win all the time, I would expect
for
the same.
Yes.
Is that I'm curious why it matters so much. What is your personal ethos that holds so much stake in what the answer is to this question.
When
It's because everyone tells him he's wrong.
Okay,
And he can't stand it.
When I was 2, I was abused. Sorry. No. Shut up. It's a false story, maybe.
I mean, I get from the personal aspect of the business that you're working with, it makes sense that you don't want things to look deceptive and that you want to present marketing-wise accordingly and that you're a good person and you're doing good things. But, what if people are doing things nefariously?
Well, no, Dave and I always have something to argue about. It's like part of our thing. It's like we're brothers, and it's just what we do. We fight. So I think it's more of just something we debate on. And I believe this way, and he believes another way. But either way, it's not really gonna break me. I just know that Dave's wrong. In my heart. So yeah, that's all there is to it.
It's okay for your heart to be
we
wrong.
have that all sorted out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. It's my perception. My perception is that I'm right, and that means I am, according to Jasmine.
All right. Good. I guess we got this sorted out.
Yeah, see, it's great.
I'm not even arguing this anymore. I mean, it's just gone from like, hey, we're going to think logically about things and get some experts in here that can actually, confirm that I was correct on everything, and then it just goes into complete falsehood. So it's fine. I'm done talking. I'm done.
Okay, that's good. So anyhow, Jasmine, that's not what you came here to debate. You didn't come here to debate anything, hopefully. But let's talk a little bit about your therapeutic practice. How did you come about to start using NLP as a form of therapy?
Well, basically, I had actually gone to a couple of therapists in my youth, and it felt really weird and forced, and the person didn't seem to be involved. And so I had known for a while, I had done international business previously, that I really enjoyed the person-to-person interaction. However, the idea of being a therapist just sounded terrible. And then I went to this place called Esalen, which you guys may or may not have heard of, and it's sort of for big thinkers that are doing things in a different way. And it was the first time that I was exposed to Milton Erickson's work, as well as Virginia Satir and Carl Whitaker, and those sort of big names in psychology, specifically the clinical therapy aspect, really inspired me. And so then I got super excited and I started learning about Gregory Bateson and Paul Watzvik. And from there, I was like, wow, this feels really big. And, if you watch Milton Erickson and listen to him, he's got these amazing stories. And truth be told, I didn't feel like I had that natural artistry. And I was like, there has to be a better way for someone that's very logical and rational like myself to be able to look at how hypnosis and trance works. So I began looking at more information sort of with Bandler and how that all evolved. And I was really interested. I was like, oh, wow, they're sort of looking at this thing that he does so naturally from a mechanistic standpoint. And even though you're told over and over and over again with therapy and NLP that really using scripts is not the good idea, when you're first starting and you have no clue what you're doing, it actually provides a really nice framework. And it was a jumping off point, and from there I sort of learned more about rapport and how marketing influences work, and from there took it to a personal level, and then went on to school, and now I'm a therapist and use it all the time in practice.
Okay, so after you did all the research, and then you obviously, did you take some formal education in NLP, or was it the books that you read and the other courses that you went to that kind of taught you about some of the potential value of it in therapy?
Actually, I'm old enough that there wasn't a lot going on when there were classes. There was a lot of sort of the fluffy new age NLP sort of stuff going on that didn't really resonate with me. I wasn't really interested in using crystals to find my inner self. So most of the stuff I had done was reading. However, the internet was definitely coming into being, and there were a lot of people that were beginning to talk about this stuff. So the ability to be able to communicate with other people really helped at that time. Since then, I've done work with the Milton Erickson Foundation, and which obviously inspired NLP and so forth, and then also have talked with many practitioners, and then also have sort of used that approach in regards to the best way to use a strength-based strategic outlook in working with clients.
Now, if you look at the history of NLP, with Bandler and Grinder and those guys, I mean, they started it really as a therapeutic means for therapy. That was the whole history of it, if you kind of look at it that way. But over the years, there's been a lot of controversy with NLP, and it's like you said, some of the new age kind of using crystals or a tap you on the shoulder and you think red is white or blue is yellow, whatever, those kinds of NLP tricks that people promote. So how do you combat that? Someone comes to you, looking for help, and you bring these things up, and then maybe they go home and do some research, and you type in NLP in Google, and you're going to come up with 1,000 YouTube videos of, hold your arm up, and then I'm going to say a magic word, and all of a sudden your arm's going to be like a steel rod, and I can't move it, and that kind of goofy stuff.
Sure, absolutely. I will be really honest with you guys. I don't tend to tell people what I'm doing. That might sound deceptive, but for instance...
Hence again, I'm right, Dave. You see? Deception and social engineering.
No, let's not get into this again, Chris. I mean...
I'm just saying. Hey, we can let her go on. I'm just saying. I'm
saying that deception absolutely is applicable during social engineering. I have to be crazy to say that it isn't. I'm saying you don't have to have deception every time you do social engineering.
Anyhow, go ahead, Jasmine. Sorry.
So I'm right again, and you're wrong. It's fine.
Sorry, Dave interrupted you. Go ahead.
No problem. So for me, the intention is to, as quickly as possible, learn how the person is processing emotions and thoughts, sort of hack them as quickly as I possibly can, gain rapport, and then help them reach their goals. And so because of that, I will explain some of the techniques that I'm using, but only if it's going to help me reach their goals more quickly. So I will say, hey, what do you think about trying something completely different? And they'll be hesitant, and I'll say, I really feel like you have an adventurous spirit within you, and you're here to change. So what do you have to lose? Because whatever you've done previously hasn't worked. So, hey, how about this? Why don't we stand up, and why don't you try talking to me about some of the really negative things that happened while you were on one foot trying to balance yourself?
And now,
so
what does that do? I mean, I'm trying to picture this scene in my head, and now what would be the purpose of making someone stand in an awkward position while telling you a negative story?
Well, in regards to the basics of how our brain works is we have a normal pattern. And what happens is that when we sort of have these stories that we tell ourselves that are extremely negative, the grooves in our brain sort of slide together more easily. So what happens is with NLP, or if you want to say meditation, or anything along this line of what you're doing is putting sort of a stopgap. And so your brain can't actually talk the same way to each other. They found the same thing if you do certain yoga poses, that it's really impossible to have the same negative reaction within your body and mind, and different chemicals release. So what happens is that the person is so distracted by trying to do this silly thing, right? And it really could be anything that I'm asking of them. But this very silly thing, that they're so focused on it that they are having the brain tell these exact same stories that they're so familiar with in a different way. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I guess my first, and I'm not, I'm just asking because I'm really curious how that works. So that would be great while they're in the office. But then they go home and, they're on their normal stance, their normal body position, whatever it is, sitting on the couch and working in the office, and the negative thoughts come. How does that disconnect while they were in the office now affect the disconnect that you created in the office by standing on one foot while telling the story?
Absolutely. So what happens is that there's the idea of equifinality, that whenever you start a change, it's going to ripple through in every single direction. So the moment you are bringing forth a change in your brain, you've already shifted things. And then you use sort of the basic idea of telling them that look, you've just changed something in your brain. So from here on out, you are going to do it differently. And then they, for whatever reason, they decide that a therapist like myself has some sort of power in regards to a logical fallacy of authority. And so I'll use that to their benefit, that yes, I have seen this many times and I know this works, and it actually does. But then they reinforce that, and then they'll go home, and all they have to do is, let's say, tell somebody, oh, my wacky therapist asked me to do this, and you know what? It really works. Now, does it really work because I'm wacky or they're standing on one foot, or if it's NLP or not? That I can't tell you. I don't have enough research. What I do know is that when we shift in the brain to that sort of what Milton Erickson would call sort of the confusion technique, that we go beyond the buffer, that things shift and we're no longer sort of acting on our conscious mind, and the brain is able to process in a different way, just like we sort of do in a sleep state. We just process differently.
So, I feel like maybe we should back up 2 steps, because one of the things I didn't do in the beginning is I didn't ask you to define what NLP is for you, and because we all have different definitions of it. And I, of course, coming from a wholly different avenue of what NLP is. But before I even say anything about what I think, I'd like to hear how you define NLP.
Sure. Basically, NLP is how we use different processes to understand the world. And we are looking at how to each one another recognize those and use those processes to the best of our abilities to reach our goals. How's that? That's nice and vague.
Yeah, it is vague. But, I think maybe the reason that it's good to hear your definition is a lot of times, of course, coming into, let's say, this field, the social engineering field, and a lot of people, at least that talk to the Jim and I, like when my book came out, the first introduction into NLP or things like that was the book. So you go online, you hear a new term, a new topic, something that you never heard of before, and you start doing research. Now, as you know, obviously, you do research on NLP online, you're not going to get anything that really goes the route that you just said. Maybe when you dig down pages and pages deep and you get into the history of it and you get into the some of the sciences behind NLP, you will get to there. But the first 4 or 5 pages are all I don't want to use anything negative, but I don't want to discredit anybody, but in my opinion, I should say, then the goofy hypnosis kind of NLP that exists. I personally don't fall for the whole, like, I'm gonna snap my fingers, you're gonna cluck like a chicken, or I'm going to tap your shoulder and you're going to view red as blue, or I'm going to say a magic word and all of a sudden your arm is an iron rod that can't be moved, and then when I say another word, you're Jello and I can do anything I want to you. I personally don't fall for that, and I've had people actually try to prove it by doing it to me, and it's never worked. So that's, of course, solidified my lack of belief in that. How do you?
Chris, I do it to you all the time.
You do not. What? Oh, no, just kidding.
Well, I mean, you read some people like Paul Ackman, right, who just is not a fan of NLP, right?
No, he hates the stuff.
Right, exactly. And here's the interesting part is, I love his work on micro expressions.
Me too.
And to me, micro expressions are a huge part of NLP. You are watching how the eyes move. You are watching breath. And So it's really difficult when I look at his work and I am so impressed and I use his work all the time, how to me that doesn't relate to NLP. I feel like I am a very sort of rational, logical, scientific approach to things. And so when you're thinking about NLP, like any other concept, people are going to take it however they best feel it works for them. And so I guess if they want it to be sort of a, mythical experience, that's great. And I will 100% use that to their advantage in session. I can make NLP sound really, really fluffy, and I can also bring out, the research on, diabetes and phobias that have happened within the last 2 years, and that they're really showing, specifically in Germany, in hospitals for the last 7 years, they've been using NLP practitioners in the operating rooms to reduce the need for anesthesia, and it's really paying off. And not only financially, but in regards to people healing faster. And so when you're looking at sort of hard evidence and then my day-to-day work with people, it's hard to say it isn't there. But at the same time, I'm not trying to make it into some sort of sideshow. It's more about shifting people's mindsets and using their own approach as a springboard to what they want.
But as a medical practitioner, do you believe in that type of NLP? Do you think that there's actual medical or scientific truth behind the ability to tap me on the shoulder and make me think one color is another or something like that?
Oh, wow, Chris, you're asking me to have so much knowledge that I just can't even begin.
I'm asking you for your opinion, which you haven't yet given to us.
Yes, I know. I guess what I think is that absolutely for certain individuals that is possible. If you want to consider that persuasion or different modes of operation, you can. However, I don't think that that's the norm. Just like, for instance, I don't think that synesthesia is the norm for people. However, it's really cool.
Your vagueness, I tell you. Okay, so you believe it, you don't, we don't know. Maybe you do. If it's someone believes it, then it's true. But
yeah, and for me, in the work that I do, I have to take exactly where the person is coming from. And so if they want to really, if they come to me and they're like, oh, you know NLP and you know about hypnosis, and they're like, put me under. I have no idea how to formally put someone under with hypnosis. However, I'll talk with them and I'll build rapport and I'll change my tone and I'll slow my pace and I'll do a vision exercise. Now, is that anything more or less than other conversations that we have? I don't know. I just know that different people work with different modalities. And for me, NLP is matching that modality and using it to get where they want.
I guess I understand from a therapeutic standpoint where you come from, right? I understand that. So that makes perfect sense. You know, if a person comes in and they have a lot of psychological issues and you're trying to help them through it, one by one, and you start telling them that their belief structure is wrong, that can damage them more than help them. So I get that. From a social engineer standpoint, though, believing that I could easily manipulate someone with some kind of real Jedi mind trick, you know, wave my hand or snap my fingers, and all of a sudden there's going to be a guy, like I saw this show, you know, this guy like taps somebody and he falls asleep on the street and he freezes there for 3 hours and doesn't move, and then the guy comes back and snaps his fingers and he continues on his day like nothing ever happened. To believe that that is actual something that could happen, to me, can damage someone's ability to be an effective social engineer. Because, you know, you're going to go in and you're going to try something that's probably going to hurt your rapport. You know, I understand in your case, if I came in to get therapy and I told you my belief system is That kind of hypnosis is 100% real. I did research on NLP, and I know that it's, hypnosis is the best thing. And you started telling me I was wrong, and you're going to ruin my rapport with you. But at the same time, I think, as a social engineer, that kind of approach is that's where perceptions are different. I'm coming from it in a social engineering aspect. You're coming it from you have to help people as a therapist.
Well, I definitely agree with you. However, though, in regards to social engineering, is that you can maneuver situations to where if you feel that it is in your best interest for the information that you're gathering to go along with what they're saying, then that is going to build rapport. So if, you want to, get past a receptionist and she has a whole bunch of, pictures of, I don't know, crystals and new age type stuff, then if you go in knowing that, okay, you know what, this is really going to work on her, then is that the same thing or is that different in your mind?
Well, for me, I wouldn't even try it. Like if I walked in and I saw a receptionist with a bunch of crystals, crystal around her neck, whatever, she had some kind of pictures indicated that she was a new age type of person on her desk. I still wouldn't walk in and say, oh, well, she's new age, so I can try this, fancy dancy tap her on the shoulder and tell her that she's my best friend and she's going to let me through and it's going to work. Because I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I don't think that that's realistic or reality. And I've never seen it in a live setting actually work. So, where to me that's a whole nother set of influence than what the angle you're coming from. You're someone like you already mentioned, someone's coming in, they're looking for help, so your job is to get on the same plane as them, understand their present belief structure, and then alter that belief structure to something more positive and not damaging to them.
Absolutely.
So I think knowing that means that the way you use NLP to me is much different than the way a social engineer would use NLP. Also because someone is coming to you with a willingness to speak, right? So if I come to you and sign up, I'm coming to you knowing that I'm going to open up and talk. Approaching a target as a social engineer, the 90% chances they're not going to want to talk to you. You need to make that happen. So.
Absolutely, and I think that's the part that is confusing for people that look at sort of stage hypnosis versus clinical research hypnosis in the therapeutic process, is that you have people that sort of are open to sort of a gimmicky, they're going to speak like a chicken. They're already primed for that. The context is already set. The people that volunteer for that are already have that framework, and so they're more open towards doing it. So it's I completely agree that with social engineering, you're sort of coming with almost every single negative aspect against you, and it makes sense to me, at least, to start with things that are tried and true that which in that sense, I do think that NLP was sort of the basics of, learning eye movement and rapport and mirroring, that those sort of basic fundamentals really can help. And
that is exactly where I agree with you. I think, like what you mentioned before, when you're talking to someone and you slow your pace, you lower your pitch, those things are naturally calming to anybody, unless you're speaking with, a really high-strung person, then maybe you need to go a different angle. But, in 90% of the cases, approaching someone in that way without harsh tones, with a smile on your face, with body language that's more open and not nervous, yeah, definitely. Those things can influence a person's perception of you and make them more pliable to whatever, way you plan on going with them. So I mean, approaching it from an SE angle makes it more interesting to kind of hear how you do it as a therapist, to see if there's things we can learn. Like when you start a session with a patient, is there a particular method you use always that starts a session that determines what route you'll go in using NLP with them?
No, however, I am paying attention from the very first moment that I see them and I go and get them from the lobby and then bring them back to my office, there's a lot of priming that happens before. I'll specifically, depending on how the person stands up, if they sort of approach in a very strong way, then I'll often let them go to my office ahead of me. It gives them that feeling of security and so forth. If someone's a little more timid, then I'll say, you know what, why don't you come on back with me and let's go ahead and sit in the office. I'm more guiding and a softer approach. And then once we sit down, I'll often ask them, hey, can you just sort of let me know what your expectations are of what's going to happen? And that gives me an in pretty quick as to their modality of speech and comprehension and, if they're kinesthetic or visual, auditory, that sort of thing.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that. So when you're, from the beginning, when you're starting the observation, because it's really hard, I would imagine, to try to observe everything about the person. So what are maybe you can mention 2, 3, 5 of the key things that you're looking for in order to learn about the individual quickly?
Okay, pretty much one of the basics, of course, is what they're wearing, how they're dressed. We absolutely visually process all of that. We get, and I'm not judging right or wrong here, but in Western society, we do get a socioeconomic stance on someone that is coming in by what they're wearing, how relaxed they are, if they're wearing clothes that are more business attire, that sort of thing. So you get the visual expectation of sort of how they are dressing themselves and what sort of image they want to project. So generally speaking, not always, for instance, if I have a college student that's coming in, and they're sort of wearing pajamas and they haven't really done their hair and they're just sort of, mopey, that's going to be a different approach for me than if I have a high-powered businessman who is coming in and we're on the clock and he's here and he is driven to get X, Y, and Z done. That's going to be a different sort of thing, but as you all know, just taking the visual isn't really enough. So then I will watch how they approach me, if they smile or not, if they're looking down or not. And then when they're sitting on whatever, and I let them choose a chair on purpose where they want to sit, because that does tell me a lot of their comfort level. If there's someone that's going to supposedly sit in the therapist chair, then that's someone that to me either feels comfortable with what's going on with the process, or they might want a power stance, and that's fine too. I have no problem with empowering them. So I think that those are some of the basics, and then I sort of immediately key into what it is that they're trying to tell me. If they're trying to signal to me that they're really, really nervous and they don't know exactly how to go to the next part, or if they want to just spit everything out really fast and hopefully just get it out of their system so that it doesn't hang on to them, those sorts of things are all cues to me as to the kind of approach that I'm going to use.
So, I had a question in my head when you were talking, because I guess that you started about the chair. Is it clear? Is there a clear indicator, like in your office, of which chair would definitely be the therapist chair?
Oh, sure, absolutely. But I do like to play and tinker. I am a hacker, absolutely. So I enjoy giving people the freedom to make that choice. And in that moment, they're slightly confused, right? There is a typical sort of idea of where you're supposed to sit when you go to a therapist's office. And watching them sort of process all of that gives me a pretty clear understanding if they're good with change or not, things that are unexpected or not. And like I said, how they sort of want to conduct a session. And depending on their approach, there are some people that they need to really sort of almost bicker up front, right? They need to get that sort of, I don't like therapy, this isn't going to work sort of approach. And then there are other people that really want that comforting sort of, okay, this person's going to help me. And each person goes through a different sort of cycle, which often does respond to the modality of how they process things, which is, again, NLP based.
So, I don't want to be dominating, guys. If anyone has anything, just cut me off, because I got a few questions on that topic. If we can get specific, of course, I'm not asking.
I'm going to cut you off, Chris.
Okay. See, this is what I mean. Did I tell you? We're like brothers. Where he's like the little kid. He's like the little mentally challenged brother that you feel bad for. So you just let him get away with stuff because you feel bad for him. That's what Dave's like.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Love you, Dave.
Love you too, buddy.
So, did you really want to interrupt me with a question, or will you just?
No. That's all I had. Thanks.
Oh, okay, that's good. So, I'm not looking for specifics on, of course, your patients. I don't want anyone that ever listens to this to get embarrassed. But, to get specific about, maybe give us a few things that a person would be able to look for in another individual. Let's pick certain things that might be useful in a social engineering engagement. Like if you were to approach someone, how would you determine if they were angry? Let's use that one first. What would be some key indicators to you as you approach someone? And if I'm putting you on the spot, feel free to tell me, and we'll just move on.
To me, immediately, it's body language. If in fact, they have a more relaxed stance, or if they have sort of that softening around the eyes when you look at them, as opposed to also looking away very quickly. Which can be an indicator of being upset or sometimes shy, but oftentimes you can tell around the eyes. It sounds cliche, but so much of what we do learn is how people look at us and the kind of eye contact they keep. And so oftentimes also I will look at the breathing pattern. It's really, really hard. We go into the fight or flight mode, and that's why part of that building rapport is to breathe in time with the person that you're around. And so if they're breathing very quickly, that's a pretty good indicator that they're either frightened or angry about something. And so you sort of immediately sense that, and at least for what I do is I'll take my tone down and I'll slow things down so that I don't add to whatever the anxiety or anger is about.
Do you also at that point start to control your method of breathing, maybe more audibly, to try to influence their mood?
Oh, absolutely. I'll often do a really big breath and I'll be like, wow, that was really tense. And they can't help but go along with me in that. And it also sort of brings a sense of levity, which blocks that sort of trance pattern of them thinking about really, really negative things or things that make them angry.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good, because I think from a social engineering aspect, understanding that could be very beneficial. You're approaching someone, being able to look at some of the body language to determine maybe the emotion that they might be feeling. Of course, you can't read someone's mind, but if you can understand what emotional state they're in, it could affect your reaction. That could influence the person a little stronger.
Absolutely. And when I consider myself out in the wild, which is not in the therapeutic setting, and I sort of move and tinker with things, which I think applies to social engineering pretty well, that the main thing that I have found over and over again is that I think really when you look at all of the research that shows that things work and don't work, when you're looking at that process over and over and over again, you have all of these different approaches. You can look at the speed, you can look at the way you say the words, your tonality, but there is something about an interaction that we have, and there is no doubt, I have seen it time and time again, that when you ask someone to do you a favor, you ask for help, even if it's right off the bat, then absolutely, people want to feel helpful. They want to feel good, and it builds rapport so quickly.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting topic. We just had our new intern we were talking about. He wrote a newsletter article on people using physical handicaps that they have in a social engineering engagement, because the natural response to those who are in need is empathy and sympathy, so that can of course be utilized. to build on those emotions. Interesting, a little malicious, but I mean interesting in the sense to hear you kind of say something very similar. Not from a social engineering aspect, but how those kind of emotions will affect people that you're speaking to or those that you are speaking to you. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So besides looking at someone's face and their breathing, their breathing patterns, can you give us any key indicators of what type of body language you're looking for? Maybe like actual examples of things that will tell you what a person is feeling or how maybe they're going to react to a certain question or, just even an emotional state of mind that someone may be in because you see X type of body language being displayed.
Sure. I think a really good part of this is also sort of gender dynamics, and this is going to be a generalization. Of course, there are specifics for each individual person, but on a general basis, you sort of have a sense if, as a female, if there is a male there and they're on board with whatever you're talking about, right? You have emotional buy-in when they start to lean forward. So oftentimes, I'll lean back, which is sort of the power stance, right? And I'll make my voice softer so that they have to lean in. And if however quickly they lean in to want whatever information I'm giving, whether it's therapeutic or, I'm whatever, out in the wild, given information, that however quickly they lean in and the amount of how far they lean in really tells me how deeply invested they are and how sort of far I've gotten into their unconscious. Like, I can pretty much say anything and I don't even know if they're going to hear me anymore. I could start talking about coconuts and, bananas, and I don't even know if they would be paying attention anymore because whatever I have said is already there and they're on board with it. So there's definitely a physical posture leaning in that tends to happen between a male-female dynamic.
So that's after you've already conversed for a while. Is there any key indicators that you can pick up maybe when you're just approaching a person? Like if you were to approach a patient and you're walking to the lobby, maybe first time that you're going to talk with them, and you see some type of body language that would indicate that, wow, this guy's probably going to be a little more difficult to get through, or this person's going to be much easier to get through to.
Yeah, I think that also the pace that people walk at, their determined sort of stance of, okay, are they sort of strolling along through the lobby down the hallway, or are they sort of purposefully taking action, and how they are looking around. There are some clients that, have had trauma, and so they're much more aware of their surroundings, where there are other people that, let's say, they're just coming in because they're anxious or depressed, and they're going to not be as aware of everything around them. And so if they sort of look to the left, which is our sort of office area to where all of the paperwork is, and they're picking up all of those signals, and sometimes they'll ask me questions, and other people don't even realize that there's another office there. Whatever their ability is to take in information around them, and I am watching them process that, gives me a lot of cues as to how aware they are in the moment, how anxious they are, and sort of their determination or purpose for being there.
And if someone is walking more relaxed, kind of looking around, not really focused, what is their emotional state generally?
At least the way I process this is that they're comfortable. Most likely, they've probably been in therapy before, that they've experienced situations where they've gone in and overall they feel pretty comfortable about a new environment, a new purpose, with the basic idea that they're going to share some private information.
So now comfortable could be a good or a bad thing. If someone's comfortable in the sense that they're, like you said, used to it, they've done it before, they're willing to be open, then of course it's a good thing. But comfortable can also mean, yeah, I know what's going on here. I'm pretty much aware of all of this, and that kind of overconfidence in being comfortable can make things more difficult. Is there a way to separate the two out, kind of figure out which one you're going to be dealing with?
for me, that's definitely more than the verbal cues. That's sort of the person that needs to spar. They need to sort of have therapy be proven to them effective right from the start, as opposed to sort of the wait and see if it's going to work or if they have previous information that has shown that it's successful for them. And with that is really, I would say, more of an active questioning on their part, a firmer tone with what they are looking for. They want to have this therapeutic session be proven to them effective from the start. And so oftentimes with that, you give them, information that is true, but in my opinion is also a logical fallacy, that they are looking for something substantial to hold on to as a way to then be open, so it's just another method of gaining rapport.
Yeah, very interesting. And the person who walks determined, so they're not walking lazily down the hallway, what is usually their mental state?
Usually pretty focused. It could mean anxiety, but not always. But usually they have an idea of where they're going. So that sort of confidence about what they're doing and where they need to go is that, in my opinion, usually, again, this is a generalization, that they're going to be very goal-oriented. I'm not going to have to sort of be as soft around the edges of expressing things. I can be very clear, and they're going to be driven, and they're going to be focused on a goal that is set in front of them, and then they're probably not going to shy away from it.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I can actually see that also in just a normal everyday setting, whether it's SE or therapy or whatever, but that kind of looking at people who walk that way or have that type of body language, being able to fit what you just said into their personality. When you were saying it, I was actually thinking to myself, not from a therapy standpoint, but from just, let's say, like something simple and kind of almost humorous, like a shopping standpoint. The two different types of walking you described, that's like my wife and I. I'm determined. I go in, I know exactly what I want. I don't get sidetracked. I go to the exact spot, get what I need, get the heck out, done. I don't really waste much time. My wife will be more relaxed about it, kind of walking around, looking at every possible thing, touching it all, wondering if it's a good deal or not. Maybe find other things she didn't think that she needed, but now she does, So we never shop together because it's too frustrating, And when you were talking about those two different types of personalities in your office, I started to think, from a non-therapeutic standpoint, how real that actually sounds, because I, see that in everyday life, also being the same way.
Well, I'm curious, Chris, do you think that your wife would be good at social engineering?
Yeah, my previous, without getting into too much detail in her life, but previous to what she does now, she was probably one of the top-ranking salespeople for a international organization, maybe about 10 or 11 years ago. And if you asked her, she would tell you she never knew anything about sales. She never took a formal sales course. She never took any kind of training and how to influence people. She just listened. She would ask you questions. She would listen to what you were needing, and then she would fulfill the need with a product or a service that they were selling at the time. And because she was so effective at that, and her descriptive words, because she's a feeler, she touches everything and feels it, and has a lot of details about how it makes her feel, that she was able to describe things to people in a way that made them emotionally attached to the product or service. So she was very effective at getting people to have an emotional connection with her, building rapport, and then being able to fulfill a need they have by simply stating, it sounds like, you're experiencing this. You would probably benefit from something like XYZ. Let me talk to you about it, and then, bam, it would work. So, knowing that, I think that she would be very effective at social engineering. Her thing is that she utterly hates lying. She hates deceiving people, and she feels way too guilty doing it. So that might actually damage her ability to be effective in that type of a role.
Do you think that that is perhaps well, this is a generalization, but a hindrance as to why there aren't more females doing social engineering?
That's a really good question. I mean, I know of a few, and I know, like you might have heard of Sharon Conhidi. She's actually
Yep.
a professional social engineer, and she's, from what I hear and speaking to her previously, she seems quite amazing at it. But she uses all of her feminine abilities in social engineering. The fact that she's small and her accent. And when we spoke to her before on the podcast, she brought up how, she's small, her accent, she's cute. She uses all that. Help me. I don't know where I'm going. Can you point me in the right direction? Or, forgetting a purse or a cell phone or something to that effect. And then I have to go back and get it. And, people generally will allow her into areas that, you take the two sides of the coin. She's like your height, a small Irish accent, and then you take me, the big fat white guy, and you put us both in the same scenario. She's probably going to get through the door 100 times faster than I will, just because of being able to use her physique and her physical qualities for her benefit. I don't know, though, why there's not more women in social engineering. Maybe it is the inherent lack of desire to be dishonest.
I find that when I'm social engineering too, my physique and everything does help out quite a bit.
Highly doubtful, dude.
What are you laughing about?
What am I laughing about?
Yeah.
Let me point everyone to a DerbyCon video. No. Nothing, man. Nothing.
I have a high success rate with my physique and my charm and my voice, so works out really well.
So you must be like what, SEing the Helen Keller School for the Blind, Deaf, and Dumb?
PG.
Sorry.
Well, I think what would be fascinating, and I don't know how you would recruit more women, and I don't know if it's, it's in the past it could have been more the technology side of things, but there are so many women that are involved now with hacking. So I would like to think that that's changed some. It would be great at DEF CON if there was like a contest of being able to do social engineering and really see the difference between male and female techniques.
What do you mean if there was a social engineering contest at DEF CON, huh?
Right, but specifically have the male and female and see who can produce the information more quickly for the same thing.
We can do that. The problem is every year so far, we've only had 2 women sign up, and both years they canceled. The first year we did have we had one girl. She did compete, but she got the rat bum end of a deal because we gave her an organization that didn't have much presence on a Saturday. That was one of the things we learned. So she wasn't able to really show us any of her skills at that point. And this year we had 2, and both of them had to cancel last minute. So I agree with you. This is the call out. Next year at DEF CON, we need 50% of the contestants to be girls. That would be epic. And then that would be definitely another factor in the report afterward, is how across the gender pool, how they how successful or unsuccessful they are. I think that would be epic. That would be really excellent to see.
I would love to experience that. And then I'm also curious from the business standpoint, do you all have women that you employ as, if it is more efficient, then, and then you're going and teaching these companies sort of, the holes that they have. Do you find women that are interested in doing this work?
I can't speak for the other 2 guys, but maybe Jim and Dave can speak up on this. For me, the problem is, again, that the women that I know and that would trust in this have a real serious problem with deceiving others. And at least even in contextual settings, trying to get my wife to play along with something and see how she would do, it's all over her face, and being a person who took training in reading facial expressions, you could see it. And you can see if this was another individual, you would definitely influence their emotions to be more nervous about you, because it's obvious that what you're saying you don't believe in, and that becomes a problem. I think that naturally women are more honest. We found that to be the case in the CTF, in the social engineering CTF. Whenever a contestant gets a woman on the phone, they tend to be more straightforward and honest about what their expectations are in this phone call, if they feel at all. We had one woman say, "This phone call sounds fishy," and just hung up. And that never happens with a guy. I mean, we'll have a guy say, beat around the bush, like, "And these are weird questions," or "Why are you asking this?" I mean, we had one guy actually say during the competition, a person that got called, he said, "I'm not allowed to answer all this," and the guy said, "Oh man, you'd really help me out if you could just answer a few of these questions." "Oh, okay." So it was, whereas the women, when they feel insecure about a situation, they had no problem saying, "I really don't like the way this conversation is going." Click. So I'm not sure how that, that's a really interesting study maybe to do, a really interesting piece of research to kind of look into how we would be able to manage any data or analyze if women would be more successful in SE or not.
Is there a way to at least begin to start that, like put a poll up on the socialengineering.org site?
I think that is our poll. That is our next poll. That would be an awesome poll to have.
I don't know how you would be able to tell for sure if it was really women that were answering or not, but, you could at least ask people to hopefully be truthful about it and have women answer.
Yeah, that's the problem with polls, is you never know.
Yeah.
But we can word the question so it's not necessarily only women answering. We can maybe ask, A, how do you feel if women would be better or worse than men at social engineering? And then B, are women generally more honest or dishonest than men? Something to that effect, and then get their gender. And see.
Except me.
Definitely not except you, dude. If we weren't PG rated, I could tell stories. And that would definitely prove my point. But unfortunately, I can't even argue with you on this one because we're PG rated. Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta bounce off, guys.
So where are you at, Dave? Because you always call us from somewhere annoyingly strange. Where are you?
I'm inside a conference room at the Rochester Security Summit. Actually sitting here with Marcus Raynham and a few other guys that are listening to the podcast. Is it okay if I said your name? It's fine. Yeah.
My parole officer.
Marcus and his parole officer? That's great.
Just kidding.
Why don't you leave your laptop there, Dave, and we'll just let Marcus stay on with us.
Yeah, I'll just leave my laptop here unlocked.
Yeah.
So everybody can use it.
Yeah, no problem. I don't think D-Bolt would mind.
No, but I appreciate you being on. It was definitely a great podcast, but I got to bounce off. I'm actually giving a presentation in 2 minutes, so I got to hurry.
Okay, bro, go have fun.
See you guys.
Okay,
Bye. Nice meeting you.
Dave's always calling us from he called us from the hospital once. He was actually going in to get an EKG because he had some kind of heart problem, and he called us while he was on the table and the doctor was hooking up the EKG. Guy's really not
He's
normal.
either dedicated or just definitely looking to keep the entertainment value going.
I think it's B. But no, sorry, Dave. I'm sure you'll be listening to this. Love you. Okay, so I want to get back to that topic because that's an interesting topic. I mean, that's kind of my opinions, but let's hear yours. I mean, what is your opinion on the fact of women in social engineering? You think they're better, worse?
I don't see a lot out there specifically in the field, so that's difficult for me. In the generalized understanding, though, of that it seems that women seem to get their way a bit more, and that, in my opinion, if you're not expecting a woman to be in this field for whatever reason, and they are, either cute or unthreatening or have a soft voice or seem to know some things, that can be rather appealing. And I don't see why it wouldn't be like an all-out search for women, because just from the economic standpoint, if you want this information as quickly as possible, then use women to get it and then teach them how the other parts, let's say they don't even have all the technical skill behind it, they can at least gather some information, or if they have the personal skill, then they can learn the technical skill.
Yeah, I think part of the, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail for this because but I just want to preempt this. This is a disclaimer. I do not feel this way, but I think that this is the unfortunate truth in the world. We're still in a male-dominated society, and if you walk in, and sometimes what I find to be the case, like if I go into a place with my wife, and she's got the questions, or she's going to be the one doing the talking, the guy behind the counter will still look at me and talk to me.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's like, I'll even say a couple times we do this. We go to Home Depot looking for something. She's got the questions on the product. The guy's answering me. And a couple times just for fun, I'll say, dude, I don't have the questions. You got to talk to her. And he won't get it. Still after a couple of minutes, he'll come back and he'll start talking to me. And it's like, she's going to be the one making the decision. So, I'm just here for moral support. Like, don't look at me. And then the guy's ticking her off. So, he's losing the sale.
Right.
And, the unfortunate case with social engineering and women, that may be the same problem that occurs, is that you send a woman into a business, her pretext would have to be such that it's not possible for the target to show that level of disrespect based solely on her gender. So if the pretext, again, using the age-old simplistic one of a tech support person, coming on site to fix the server, you might raise the red flag if you send the cute little 5'1" woman,
Sure,
and to say, hey, I'm here to fix your server.
Right.
And the goal, of course, with social engineering is to not break their alpha mode at all. If someone's in alpha mode and just going to let you through, and you send an attractive, short, cute-sounding girl, you've now broken them out of alpha mode. So the pretext would have to fit.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And it can also lend itself to more phone work, perhaps, or something that, other women are dealing with other women in regards to just getting through, the secretary, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like I'll tell you, there's one going around right now. I think Jim turned me on to it. There's a big SE, an actual malicious attack where they're taking Indian women, Asian Indian, women, and they're calling people and saying, "Oh, we have you on a list as a registered Microsoft Windows user. Are you using Windows?" And of course, 90% of the people are. So yes, well, we got a report that from your IP address, there's a lot of malicious traffic. We want to help you fix it. Can you go and check this? And they take them to the event log. When the person opens it in every Windows machine, the event log is full of errors that say critical, warning, big red signs.
Right.
So the non-knowing user goes and sees the warnings and errors, and they say, oh my, this is really serious. We can help you fix it. Since you're a registered Windows user, we do this for free. Go to this website and download this program, teamviewer.com. And they go to TeamViewer, which is a screen sharing, keyboard sharing, control, give control to your computer. Download TeamViewer, give them access, and now this person has got access to this individual's computer. And of course, they're doing all sorts of malicious things after they gain access. And they're using video in the video that I saw of someone who captured this when they got this call. They're using an Indian woman to do the phone call. There's a couple intelligent things in doing that, of course. Using a woman if you're calling a guy, you're going to be less prone to be rude and belligerent to them. And with the accent, of course, as weird as this will sound, and I'm not trying to be derogatory, but that fits the role. Most tech support now is coming from that area, so having that accent on the phone, you're saying, oh, this fits the role as a Microsoft tech support person. So there are some. I definitely agree with what you're saying, that you going to the phone level, using a woman in that could very well enhance your ability to collect information. What do you think, Jim?
I think it's tough. That there definitely should be more women in this area. However, it's not really a field where there's very many role models whatsoever, and so how do people really know that a field is open for them to work in unless there's someone that they can model off of to a certain extent? There's no female version of Kevin Mitnick for a lot of people. I think that causes some issues. The other thing is, I've hired for a lot of different positions, and just on any sort of technical item, you just don't get as many females. The females that I've hired into positions have definitely been no better worse than any male counterpart, but but just the numbers of the people that apply, it becomes difficult. It'd be great to have more in this area. It'd be great to have more parity, but we definitely need more people to come knocking.
Yeah, you know what I heard is interesting is after a couple of the contestants got done with their phone calls last year on the CTF, the Social Engineering CTF at DEF CON, we had 2 contestants get job offers.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, I had a couple companies call me and ask for contestants' email addresses and names because they wanted to offer them work.
Or so they said.
Well, I didn't, of course, give it over without first
Yeah.
going to the contestant and saying, I have a company here looking to talk to you about potential work because of your call. Are you interested? And most of the time, I gave them a Gmail account or something. So I'm not sure how that worked out. But it was interesting to see that the level of interest after the calls and getting work. So maybe that's an interesting idea, is we need to reach out to some of the women in the community, have them come be part of the contest, and maybe next year they will be getting some jobs that could.
Well, let's touch on that for a minute, though, because after the first year, we had one woman that took part in the contest. She did have bad luck with the combination of the company that she had, and then the time her slot ran. And that was more our fault than hers. We were definitely still learning about how to run a contest like that at that point. This year we had I think it was a total of 2 female contestants, but both of them dropped out. It's rough that we only had that number. And I remember after the first one, we made a big deal out of the fact that women were actually much better at running defense than men were in the actual for the employees of the companies that were called.
Oh, that definitely proved true. And again, this year it proved true.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year that was the case, and this year that was the case. That woman from that retail center we called, she put the smackdown on that contestant. I mean, that guy was not getting through to her for anything. I don't care how charming he was. I don't think he was getting through to her. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and we made an issue out of that. And then we made an issue out of this last year trying to get more female applicants or female contestants. And they just weren't there for us. That's too bad. It'd be nice. Maybe next year we it's something we need to hit on a little bit more. Part of the point of the contest is that you don't have to be experienced in the security field in order to do this. If
Right.
maybe someone that's listening is married or has a girlfriend, maybe have them take part in the contest. Maybe they can find a new career for themselves that they're natural for.
Yeah, I was wondering, you guys are doing a teaching, right? Seminars, that sort of thing coming up?
And we have a course that's called Social Engineering for Penetration Testers. And
Wonderful.
I can honestly tell you that out of the 47 initial registrations for the course, that none of them, I think maybe one of them is a woman.
All right. Well, yeah, it seems like there is a gap, and I have to agree with Jim that I know even for myself, it's like, well, who do you really look towards, and what are the things that you would teach a female in regards to the approaches that they would use that may or may not differ in regards to a male getting these information?
Yeah, I think, I personally, I think that part of the course, of course, will cover this, is that you have to use whatever physical attribute you have in a social engineering engagement. And I mean that in a good way. Like
Absolutely.
in my case, I'm 6'3". I'm a big guy. So I can't have a pretext that would require me to state that I am something that would be obvious I'm not. If I go into a building and I tell them I'm a ex-Navy SEAL trainer, it is very obvious that I am not. So I can't pretext that, and I think that part of that is, if you are a woman in social engineering, just like Sharon Conhidi, you need to utilize all of the talents that you have and all of the pieces that you could put together in order to make it very successful. I think that's really important. So I do agree that is part of the course, and it would be nice to see if there's some women that would join up for SE, either in the contest next year or the course or other things. We get a lot of people that have come into the channel that have read the book, and have indicated that we had one woman who's a chef. Believe it or not, she's nothing to do with IT, and she read the book. She does something called personal chefing. Like people hire her to come to their house and cook, either for parties or for special events, anniversaries, birthdays, something like that. And she started to utilize skills that she read about in the book to close more deals. So
Awesome.
somebody would call her and say, "Hey, this is Chris. I'm interested in having you come cook for my anniversary. Can you give me a call back? Here's my number. Here's my email." And before she would call back, she would do research on the web under my name and email. And then she would find, maybe I got a Facebook page, and on my Facebook page I talk about how, I took my wife to Paris. I love French food. I can't, it's awesome. It's the best stuff on earth. And she would then utilize that knowledge when she came, focusing on the skill she has to cook French food and close the deal. Because now, she has this knowledge that I love French food. That's she would use that kind of in a social engineering aspect. And I guess I'm glad Dave's not here, because I got to say it's not really deceptive to do that. She did it, in a very honest way.
So do you think that your wife would have trouble with that scenario?
With that scenario? Absolutely not. No.
Okay, so gathering information seems to be fine. It's when you would misrepresent. So perhaps that's one of the things to look at, is that, if women are going to go into this, to really look at the strategic approach of how they want to accomplish this goal that works best according to their own values.
Yeah, my wife would actually be probably really awesome at information gathering, because she's detail orientated. And like I'm one of those guys, if I go to a website and there's something I want to read, I'll still browse through it and look for parts that interest me, and then read that, and then maybe if I really feel motivated, read the whole thing. But my wife's the kind of person that she'll read everything. She'll read a whole book, a whole web page, a whole whatever. So in information gathering, of course, that's really important, looking for those little details. So she probably would be excellent at that aspect of the SE, information gathering, I would gather.
Well, my hope is that the women out there will listen to this and hopefully sort of come forward and at least let you all know that there's an interest out there. And, at the very least, I feel like DEF CON is a great place to sort of have everybody get together and mobilize. And I don't know. Here's my hope that it's going to happen next year. There's going to be more women there. It's going to be great.
So you're our female social engineering advocate.
Yes,
you're going to be a
100%.
contestant. You're going to be a contestant too, right?
Oh, you see, now you got... Oh, I love you, Jim. Now you got to put your money where your mouth is, Jasmine. So you want women to join.
Oh, why couldn't Jim go and Dave be here? Dave would never ask that question. Jim's on top of this.
Why don't you... So now you're going to be the first contestant signed up for next year's CTF as our first female contestant that will actually do it.
Possibly.
There we go.
Possibly. Sure. Why not?
There is no... Sure, why not? We have it on audio record that Jasmine is signing up to be part of the Social Engineering CTF 2012 DEF CON 20. That
big anniversary.
Yeah, big, huge anniversary. So you're going to... That's it. And since you're the first, I honestly feel that there probably will be more women that when they hear it publicly, women are signing up. I think they will.
Absolutely. We'll just go ahead and work with that. And my hope is that, they can sort of realize the ability and the power that they have, because it just seems like a completely untapped market. And it seems almost sad to me that we're not sort of incorporating more people in the greater good of looking at these gaps and then teaching people how to take care of them and themselves and their companies. So...
Well, if we look at just a 2-year track record, it's not much, but, the first year we maybe averaged around 35 to 45 people in the room. And then when we got really popular, we had maybe 100 or something, and that, was a really tiny room. Last year, we were averaging up in the high 200s. Sometimes when we got really low, maybe in 100 and so. But then at one point, I know we had 290-something chairs in the room, and we had people standing and lining the walls. So at some point. So, just to see that exponential growth in 1 year, maybe, there was a lot of women that sat in the room during this year's competition. Maybe they listened and heard and, were listening to this podcast now and say, hey, I could do this next year. I think that would be great. I would love to have someone like Sharon Conhedy come in and actually do a call too.
That would be great if you guys can talk with her and get her to come in and maybe, say, hey, I can try to teach you some stuff, like Jim's talking about, that there's someone that's actively already doing it that they can at least talk to and try to learn from.
Yeah, I think we, like I said, we have, this is the first time we got, as soon as we left, I think it was 2 days after DEF CON, we got called and invited back for next year already. And that was big. Yeah, that was big news for us because normally you don't hear until like February or something what's happening, and we were told, make the plans. You're there. So for us, that was a big deal. So we have a whole year to plan to make it better. To really plan. We going over the data. The report will be released very shortly. It's actually done and just going through its final edits. And going through the data set, we realized this year, what we need to do to make it just amazing next year, and collect the best kind of data, mixing the first year and this last year together. So I think it really could, if we get some women in there and have that other piece of subset, to say here's a whole nother avenue that we can look at, men versus women in social engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think we need to promote that. Yeah, we definitely need to promote that. That's a good idea, Jasmine.
Why, thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's we've been thinking about it, but I like the fact that you stepped up. You're signing up for the CTF.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to get more people interested.
And I think that, the more that people hear that, okay, I'm a therapist and I'm interested in this, and there's a personal chef that's out there that's interested in this. I think being able to realize that you may not have all of the technical knowledge, but that's definitely something that you can learn as you go. That a lot of, especially in the contest, it's really gathering the information. And I think that's a great place for us to start.
I really agree with that. I agree with that philosophy. I think that before people thought if I wasn't in IT, I shouldn't really join. And we tried to tell people that the flags we're looking for are not things that you need to have IT knowledge to get.
Right.
I don't think anybody this year, maybe last year they did, but I don't think anyone this year. No, we might have had one or two that went from a tech level, but most people weren't attacking it from, I'm a technician, so I have all this amazing knowledge. Most people were other employees, internal customers. A lot of people even pretexted that they were completely noobs when it came to technology. So I think that what you just said is really important for people to realize, that they can come into this not having to be a social engineer or have experience in it or even be in the security field. Just be interested, and they can partake.
Right, and that this stuff applies to every part of your life. And so I would encourage, women to just at least give it a try and see. And who knows, you might be able to get some more business in whatever you're doing.
That's awesome. Well, we didn't get you to commit to anything today as far as NLP goes, which that was my goal. But
I'm tricky that way.
Yeah, you're a little tricky. So we're going to have you back for another discussion. And then my goal is going to be to SE you into committing to something. Or when I go back and listen to this, maybe I got some kind of soft committal somewhere that I can pat myself on the back with. I don't know. But I'm going to, my job is to kind of nail you down to something with NLP. But I think what I did learn today, at least from talking to you, is that we are on basically the same page. I think what happens with people like Dr. Ekman, and I really do like that guy. I think what happens with his dislike of NLP is the name that it presently has. Right. And, what you call NLP, many other people call influence or persuasion. Right. Which could be scientifically proven. So just labeling it all as NLP, and I think that was a good thing. Jim was prompting me, ask her how she defines NLP, and that's important. Because knowing your definition of NLP, it fits not so much into the, I tap you on the shoulder and make you think one color's another, or that, I don't know if you saw that. I saw the show. I tell you, it's just the thing that bothered me and why this became a hot topic. This guy walks up to this total stranger, supposedly, on the show. This is like one of those reality shows. Walks up behind him, touches him on the wrist or something, says something in his ear, and the guy literally loses reality, doesn't know where he is, and just freezes in his place. The dude takes his watch, takes his coat, takes his bag, goes and does some business with him. People are walking around him in the New York City street. No one's realizing that this guy's just like frozen there. Everyone's ignoring him. No one calls for help. About 35 minutes or whatever, an hour or something, a long period of time that really makes it like obscenely long. The guy comes back, puts his watch back on, coat, whatever, says something else in his ear, and then the guy snaps back to it and continues on his path, like with this thought, wow, that was weird, something just happened. I don't remember what it was.
I saw that in a movie once. It was called X-Men.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like, but this guy was promoting it as this is reality.
Well, I'm with you on this, Chris, is that the scientist in me would definitely want to go talk to that guy. I've seen altered states, NLP stuff definitely work. However, it is much more in the therapeutic stance or sort of the stage hypnosis type thing. Those bigger things that you see on the internet or TV and the specials and so forth, my first immediate thing is always, I want to talk to that person. I want to see if this is real or not for them, because immediately I think, you know what, it's all planned, it's all staged, and I might have more openness to it if I either saw it directly in front of me or was able to actually talk to the person. I tend to be optimistically skeptical about things, so
yeah, see, I'm skeptical, but not with the optimistic part. Like to me, the same guy, he grabs somebody's hand and he's trying to, like the whole premise of this one story is they get two ex-car thieves, people went to jail for it, to come and take his car and hide it, and they have no clue what this whole thing's about. When they get to this warehouse, there's a guy with cameras, and he explains to them, I'm part of this TV show, and you're an ex-car thief, and I want you to take my car and hide it somewhere in the city, and I'm going to find it in an hour by questioning you. And, he holds the guy's wrist, and when his heartbeat goes up a little, he realizes he's lying and this and that. And it just seems so bogus, first of all, the whole premise of it. If I'm an ex-car thief and you put an ad in Craigslist and say, can you meet me at this warehouse at 7 p.m., and then you get there and there's cameras, are you going to walk in calmly and be like, okay, what the heck, right? If you're an ex-car thief and you walk into a warehouse, and I'm not even talking about the whole NLP thing at this point. I'm just talking about the fact that this guy got two car thieves supposedly to come to an abandoned warehouse and sit down and agree to be on camera.
Sure,
It just seems so ridiculous, And I think that kind of stuff gives NLP such a bad name. Because people see that, and then you write about it in a book or a newsletter or something. I started coining this term, neurolinguistic hacking, and it really got a lot of debate because people are like, NLP is a bunch of garbage, and it was, to me, I was not thinking of NLP in the fashion that these guys portrayed it on TV. I was thinking of it more in the way that you talk about it in your practice.
Right.
Using the body language, the facial expressions, the tone of voice, the breathing patterns. All these things indicate how someone is feeling and what emotional state they're in. And that can really help in influencing a person's actions. So,
if we can get Paul to have more conversations with us, I'm convinced that we can NLP him into understanding that micro-expressions are absolutely a form of NLP, and NLP is a form of micro-expressions. We can do this, Chris.
I give you that challenge. I have personally tried, no kidding, and it has not been successful for me. But I've had some interest.
But females are better social engineers, so she might have better luck than you.
That is very true. I'm not going to argue that. It's very true. Your very small sounding voice. You can call him and, Mr. Ackman, don't you believe NLP? And he'll be like, yes. That'd be great. I think you could do that.
Absolutely.
So if people want to know more about you, like if they want to find out more about you and your practice. You have a website that you want to promote that people can go to and kind of find out more about your practice?
Sure. I'm at jsjtherapy.com.
Excellent.
And Yeah, just working on a lot of different things. And so, yeah, they can find out more information. And if for some reason there are some wonderful social engineers in the Madison area, they should absolutely get in touch with me.
Yeah, I see. I checked out your website previously. What I liked about it that many here listening might enjoy is your blog posts tend to not really focus so much, at least in my opinion, on the therapy side as much as some of these extreme influence situations.
Yep.
Like your 0-day vulnerabilities or that one about coupons. I thought they were pretty interesting. Reading through them and seeing how this some of the tactics that you speak about there work very well when it comes to social engineering. Also.
Absolutely. I definitely consider myself a personal hacker, and so living my life out in the wild and in the therapeutic process, I think it's important to do everything we can to sort of make the world around us better and to reach our goals, and that's sort of my approach to everything.
Awesome. Well, I really can't thank you enough for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. I think we had a great conversation, a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll be doing it again, and we got you to sign up for the CTF, which is awesome.
Absolutely, and I thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure talking with you. I look forward to seeing you next year.
You definitely will, and we'll be talking through email. And again, if anyone wants to check Jasmine out, jsjtherapy.com. For me, you see, the thing is, here's the debate Jim and I always have. I love talking about the psychology end of it, and the NLP and the facial expressions and body language, and that's my gig. Jim and Dave don't really get into it as much.
Well, here's what I thought. As somewhat of a skeptic on a lot of this stuff, I think it's interesting for me to hear. I just have a hard time discussing it simply because it's not something that, like, I don't disagree with the idea of reading someone's body language, their facial expressions, their emotional state, and then having that inform your interactions with them. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right.
That seems very logical to me. The thing is, it seems so logical that it becomes an issue that I don't see anything complex in it. I don't see anything that's out of the ordinary. That seems to be like standard interpersonal relations in a lot of way. And I think that when you're engaging in a social engineering style situation with somebody, you should be doing that. I don't putting a special label on it and that sort of thing, to me, almost seems like it's dressing it up to be more complex and more scary than it really is.
But the problem, at least in my opinion, is that too many people are not doing that. Like, I can't tell you how many people came after the book came out and was saying they never thought about reading people's facial expressions or altering your vocal tone. People get on a track, like they say. Mm-hmm. I'm from New York. So you know me. I talk quick. I talk fast. I talk loud. That's what New Yorkers do. So that's the way I am. And I can simply say, if I was not good at social engineering, well, this is the way I talk. So you deal with it. You're my target. I'm going to talk to you this way. But a smart social engineer will say, well, if I'm on the phone with Jasmine, she's quieter. She's got a softer tone. I need to alter my vocal tones and pitch and pace to match hers, so she has more rapport with me. Mm-hmm. And too many people, at least what I was finding, are not thinking about that when it comes to SE.
Yeah, people are weird.
But Jim, do you actually, I love that it's just so natural for you, because some people it is. Chris likes to talk, I like to talk. It feels natural. But Jim, do you actually find that people know these things and have them as automatically as you do?
I don't know that other people are necessarily very as natural with it. I agree with that, and I don't think that people necessarily always take into account what it is they're doing. But I think that see, this is where I have a hard time with it, because I don't disagree with it. It's just it's like, for me, it's like trying to talk to someone about how to walk. It's very difficult, because for me to put into words how I walk is extremely difficult. And so this is kind of much the same to me.
Well, not to belabor the point too much, but that's sort of exactly what, Grandler, Ben, they were doing, is that, there was this natural thing that Milton Erickson could do, and they were trying to look at the mechanics of it. And I mean, I appreciate that it comes so naturally to you, but, I'd like it if more people could, do it as naturally as you, and sometimes they have to be taught. At least that's my idea.
And that's why I'm not against it at all. I have a hard time engaging in discussions about it. It's not something that I enjoy listening to other people talk about it, because like when listening to you and Chris converse, the discussion makes total sense to me. But then me jumping into that one, that's for some reason I personally just don't have. That's always been difficult for me.
Yeah, I guess I understand now what Jim is kind of saying, and because maybe Jim is a natural at it, he didn't see it as anything new, which was my first effect when I had people come to me after the book came out, and they treated it like, literally, you can ask Jim this because he knows the case. There are people coming to me using my book in colleges now, writing whole courses for college based on my book.
Awesome.
It's awesome, but it's a joke to me. It's like, I'm not a professor. I'm just a guy who hacks people. That's ridiculous to me. But because when they read it, it was like so new to them. To take, yes, everyone knows about facial reading. Everyone knows about voice tones. All they know about these things. But now to take it and make application to a skill where people were not normally using that. And it was, for me, my first reaction was kind of like what Jim just said. I was kind of dumbfounded. Like, I don't know what to say to this. How do we have I thought this was normal. It's like walking, when someone talks to me, the first thing I do is look at their body language and face and see if I feel trustworthy of them or, whatever. And now this became like a holy mackerel. This is the holy grail of SE. And it was really strange for Jim and I both. That this became such a hot topic. I mean, I got asked to go to Texas to give a speech for a large bank on neurolinguistic hacking, and how it can be used to manipulate people in a bank.
I know, but you guys, you're the exact people that should be teaching it then, right? If it comes naturally to you, then you should soak up the glory. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not complaining about it. We enjoy it, and it's great. I guess just I took to it quicker than Jim because I enjoy speaking about it. But I guess I understand what Jim's saying. Is like when he hears it, he's like, well, this is nothing new. It's been around for 6,000 years of human history, so why are we...
And I do find it interesting. I mean, it's just I don't really feel as if I have anything to add to the conversation.
But you do. This is our argument. I
agree with Chris. Yeah.
So I think I agree with Jasmine, and what I'm saying here is that you do have something to add, and if it comes naturally to you, then that should be something you utilize to help train the world.
Heck yeah.
See? 2 against 1.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to seeing you guys next year.
No, thank you for coming on. I do think it was a good discussion. I do think people are really going to like it. I think that along with everything else, what will make it so interesting is just how passionate you are about the topic, and that comes through. And so I think that's that it will be a big thing for the listeners. So,
and I think too that hearing about it in a form like therapy makes it a little more real because it's now medicine.
Right.
It legitimizes it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, just go ahead and use all of those logical fallacies because that's how the human brain works. So we'll use it to our favor.
Definitely.
All right, you guys have a great afternoon, and I will talk with you later.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I meant what I said about her passion. I think that she was a good guest because of that. It's not like we said in blah blah. With our discussions leading up to this podcast, like I said, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around a lot of these concepts and coming up with good talking points and that sort of thing to make sure that we touch on. But at the same time, that's why we have more than one person here on the podcast. You
Yeah.
know, that's what I find interesting. Not everybody else in the world is going to find interesting, and I like the fact that you brought her on. I think that she was a good guest, and frankly, her passion as far as bringing more women into this field, that is great. You know, let's give her as much of a platform as she wants to utilize for that sort of thing, because that would be helpful.
I agree. I think what you said right before she hung up about legitimizing it, to me, that was the importance of this, because I can stand on my soapbox and talk about it, and then you have some of the big names, in the industry saying, I don't really believe in NLP, and now it makes more sense. If you're talking about the NLP, like that was on that TV show that I'm talking about, yes, people don't believe in that. But if you're talking about NLP and what she's been talking about this whole time, this just reading people and using their own emotions to get in deeper, that kind of NLP works perfect.
Well, let me give you an example, and this is why I say that it's not. To me, it doesn't seem to be that huge of a deal. Is years back when I first got a job that was doing a lot of traveling, I had not been outside of the Midwest too much. So this is back when I was working at Netscape, so that kind of gives you an idea as to it was a long time ago since Netscape was around as a legitimate company. So I remember what I used to do, especially on the East Coast, when I would go up to rent a car. I was younger. I was what was I, early 20s, I think, maybe even late teens at that point. I'm not sure. But I would look for an employee that was maybe a 40-year-old or older woman, and I would always go to her and act kind of, aw shucks, blah, 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 blah. They'd see my driver's license, see I was from the Midwest, and I would get a lot of extras, like little upgrades, or they would give me better directions to where the hotel was and that sort of thing, because that kind of motherly sort of aspect thing would come in. But you'd watch them and you'd pick out which one was going to give you that sort of extra attention.
But how many people don't ever do that?
Well, it's ridiculous to not do that. I mean, just like when you're a kid and you go up to you want something from your parents. You don't just walk up to your parents and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, can I have my new iPhone? Can I get a new iPhone?" The kids always, they feel the parents out first. Make a little bit of small talk, see what sort of mood they're in, and if they're in a bad mood, they're not going to ask, because once they get that no, it's harder to change it from a no than to a yes down the road when they're in a better mood.
Yeah,
but you don't want to get an answer.
But your first newsletter article ever, 25 newsletters ago, believe it or not, was about how we've started to suck at social engineering after we've exited childhood. And I agree with that. I think that the difference between you and I think why you're having a problem with this is you're a hacker by nature. I don't mean that in a bad way, in a way that you look at things and you look at it not at what do I have to do to get this done, but how can I take it apart and analyze this deeper. And normal people don't do that. That is why social engineering still works. They go about their job and their daily life in alpha mode, and they don't realize that taking a look at the counter person, seeing which one looks nicer, see which one's going to give you a better deal, people don't do that. They go up to the counter and say, here's what I want, and hope they get it.
Yeah.
Take a look at people. You could see that's reality. That's the way it works.
I don't want to look at people.
Do it. Look at them right now.
I'd rather be behind my computer. It's
great. Oh man, I tell you. So interesting topic, though. Really interesting topic, and I think leaving all that in is going to be more beneficial. I think.
I'm looking forward to her at the CTF.
Me too.
This year we had the theme of, trying to get companies put into categories, as far as like what industry they're in. We haven't really talked about it, but we're going to need a theme of some sort for next year. Something new that we're trying to look at, and maybe boys versus girls is the way to go.
Yeah, or maybe we do the same thing with industry, but if we get enough girls, we can do in the same industry, one boy, one girl.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Like not only do it boy versus girl, but do it in the same industry, which one was more successful.
Well, see, I was kind of thinking, like, what if you doubled up? You gave the same target to two different people, but one guy, one girl.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Because then you would see the differences in the reports that they generated, as well as the differences in how they gather information, who they target within the companies, et cetera, et cetera.
Man, our definite company data set would be much smaller, but the whole theme would then definitely be boy versus girl.
Yeah. Which, I mean, realistically, we're never going to have a large enough data set in the amount of time that we have to really extrapolate detailed information about the companies. But I think that if we focus on social engineering approaches and what's effective and what's not, that we can get more data out of.
Man, that's a really interesting idea, Jim. I think the only way it would fail is if we don't get enough women to sign up. Because in reality, to have like 14 contestants, let's say, you're going to need at least seven women, and so far we haven't got over 2.
Right.
And then you're going to have those women actually show up.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this on the podcast. I might as well get it out there early. But I talked to the legal counsel about the idea of having maybe a little voluntary donation to secure your spot in the CTF.
Yeah.
That gets 100% refunded when you show up. And there's absolutely no problem with that. And even DEF CON has no problem with it.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I understand. It's more discussion, and I'm putting that out there in the public, and we'll see what people think. But I don't know. To me, the whole cancellation bit just made I understand that there were some people that had to. There was no choice. But this competition is not just for the heck of it and for fun, and to pound our chest and say we're social engineers. It's to prove a point in the industry.
Well, and not only that, but we have more people trying to sign up than we have actually contestant slots for.
Yeah.
And so when we accept somebody, that means someone else or multiple people don't get that slot.
Exactly.
And so if we have someone come sign up that then flakes out, they're not just hurting the contest, they're hurting all those other people that did not get that spot.
Yep, exactly right. And I think that's why a little $20 whatever deposit that you get back with some swag when you show up.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel hinky about touching other people's money, even when you're giving it back.
I understand, but I think that's the only way that people. I mean, if I pay for something, I'm going to be there. If I pay for something, I'm showing. And that's just all there is to it. And I'm not going to sign up and pay if I think there's a chance I'm not going to make it. I think that reduces the risk. We'll see. We'll talk about it more offline, but I think that to me it reduces the risk because right now, last year, I mean, besides the 2 females that canceled, we had like 3 or 4 others that canceled.
Yeah, it wasn't just women that canceled.
And we had our data set that definitely was affected.
Yeah.
Because when you look at some of these companies that maybe got rated higher in their level of security, the one thing we can't really factor in the report is it's very possible that company got rated higher because the call that was done was with no preparation.
Right. And I think that the other thing that maybe we should do is, since as long as we're having this discussion in public for the first time, I don't think we've had these discussions here on the podcast
ever
on this before. It's always been behind the scenes. Maybe one of the things is, maybe the listeners have some ideas as far as ways of getting people to, once they commit to being a contestant, to have them actually follow through.
And if
maybe,
you do,
maybe there might be some suggestions there.
defcon@social-engineer.org. That's the email address.
Yeah.
defcon@social-engineer.org. Send your suggestions. We're willing to take any suggestion. Not saying that we'll do them all, but we're willing to listen to them because we'd love to increase the ability to make it more successful. And if you're a girl out there listening to the podcast, or you're dating one or married to one, and you think she'd be good on the SECTF, get a hold of us. Let us know. That would be pretty awesome. Let's see, what else is there? I guess the only things we can talk about is the reports coming out. Hopefully, by the time this podcast is out, the report will be released or being released. The data set for this year was quite nice. I know we were a little nervous in the beginning, but the report that came out of it to me is it's very, very interesting. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give away any details, but
I think that you can say, though, the focus away from an inventory of data that was collected, like we did the first year, and focusing more on the techniques and defenses. Really helped the overall report. And I think that companies should find information in it that is directly actionable, that immediately.
I agree. That's actually a really nice pitch for it. Yeah, we did change the approach drastically from how we reported on the first year. And I believe that this is much more useful to companies as last year's report was useful, but I think that this year is much more useful.
It's a different. We're focusing on different data.
Yeah.
Last year we had the idea of writing the report, but before we did the contest, we had no idea what we were going to put in the report, and so then we took notes, we collected data, and afterwards we found that we had a lot of information about things like what sort of browsers and operating systems companies were using, and so we primarily discussed how a social engineer would use this information as part of an attack. While I do think that is definitely interesting information, I kind of felt as if we plowed that field already. So there's no real reason to just go over that exact same thing again and talk about, okay, now we have 3% less IE6 than what we had before. Those numbers, because of the small data set that we have, are not an accurate representation of overall corporate America anyways. And so we need to focus on the data that we actually have more control over, which is what sort of social engineering attacks are effective, what sort of defenses against them are effective, and what sort of defenses do we expect to see that just did not show up. And
I think that I know you hate when I do this, but I'm going to give you full credit for that, because that was a really, really good idea, in my opinion, to do it that way, to have the data set go that way, because you're right. With calling 14 companies, and then saying out of 14 companies, 2 or 3 of them still use IE6, sure, it's laughable, but it's not really the kind of data that makes a dent in social engineering awareness in the market, which is really our whole motivation for even doing this.
Right. I mean, well, the two things. Number one, you can have all those things patched, and you can have newest versions of operating systems and et cetera, and there's still going to be effective attacks. And I think that by focusing too much on what people are running, what software people are running, that makes it look like the defense is something that it's really not. Second thing is, I may have had the idea for the direction, but I didn't write the report. So that when people get it, it's all you.
Well, we could say that, but I can also say that the interns, Eric and Dan,
they did some great work on those reports and stuff, yes.
Phenomenal parsing out that data and helping me with the research so that we can get those graphs the way they did. Mm-hmm. And she has to remain nameless because of her work, but we have this girl step forward to help us with editing, and literally probably did not know what she was getting into. I mean, when I sent it to her, we write like dogs, so she took it and had to basically restructure 30-plus pages of text, and grammar, punctuation, missed tenses, and she was amazing at it.
All
really.
The 2 spaces after a period, I'm sure that drove her nuts.
No, she left those for me.
No, she didn't.
I appreciate her doing that. She left those for me.
No, we need a professional report, not a 4th grade looking thing.
And then we passed it through the lawyers, and the lawyers read it, and they came back with some suggestions to make it, so it's legal proof, and now it's going through its final edit and should be up by the time this podcast is released. So really excited this year about the report. I really, really am, and excited about all the stuff that we talked about. Course going live, big thing, and of course this podcast just continues to be a nice source of information for a lot of companies. We had a lot of nice feedback on our last few, Dave and Jim and me, and kind of getting some emails, people thanking us for the information that's there. So that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Anything else that we missed? We got to mention, I'd like to mention a little bit about the sponsors. We talked about OffSec in the beginning. Spy Associates continues to send us. They really helped us out with the CTF, helping us with the prizes this year. The prizes were just awesome because of them. And, of course, Dual Core, the music on the intro and the outro. If you like what you hear, dualcoremusic.com is where you can check him out. And the CTF report coming out, I still feel motivated to mention that, without Core and Qualys and the EFF, that these things just would not occur. this year really was banged out awesome because of our sponsors. So that really came in very, very handy. We really appreciate those guys, and you can find out more information on their links that are on our site. If you want to get a hold of us, social-engineer.org, social-engineer.com. On IRC, we are channel social-engineer. On Twitter, we're Human Hacker. And you can reach us also with any of your ideas at defcon@social-engineer.org. Until next month, we'll see you.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.
It's the SE derivative, that's me, I'm prime. The last thing I want is suspicion of a crime. My positive demeanor and my smile make it fine. With eye contact for the right amount of time. Too much and not enough doesn't seem for real. Got a nice firm handshake sealing the deal. Know a little about a lot and a lot about a little. So most conversations put me somewhere in the middle. My pop culture knowledge leaves me feeling kinda scary. It lets me chat with working class and gossip secretaries. Recon the boardroom, looking for the top thing. Loosen up execs when I ask about the golf swing. Start spewing secrets, just like a torrent. Can't really blame them, we all wanna feel important. It might seem different from what you were envisioning. The key to communicate, it's all about the listening.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.
Offering support to employees is the best. When I'm calling random users and claiming I'm a tech, he's just here to help. So they're easily believing him. Jamming, planning, scamming, spanning every single medium. Recording while I'm spidering your phone menu system. The mirror it and use it for my own acquisitions. Get them on the line, I just do a little switching. Sending out my number in the message when I'm fishing. 6 billion people, it's really quite a market. Customers, employees, everyone's a target. Backing up my claims, using all the common slang. Lingo for the layout, drop the manager's name. Collecting all the sweet stuff like honey to a bumblebee. Like every unlisted number dialed to your company. You saw me, you probably think I'm clumsy, but I'm not. Cause I'm dropping all these USB drives around the parking lot. Whoops.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll